Okay, to prepare for our first flight, there's a number of things that we want to make sure the aircraft is safe and ready to fly. We'll go through that in just a second, but the ground station or the remote, make sure it's fully charged, ready to go, and all applications are actually updated as far as they can be. So anytime you go to fly, try not to do any updates before actually operating the aircraft in the middle of doing any type of test. Behind me, we have the base station that's already charged up and ready to go and set up. So the communication between the ground station, your remote, and the base station, make sure that those two are talking to each other. But I also just kind of do a quick inspection, a walkthrough on the aircraft, make sure it's ready to go and that there's no issues with actually powering it up and preparing for flight. So first I kind of start in the tail section after all it's been assembly. I just do a quick check and make sure that the actual connections here are flush, that it's tight. On the back of this I have an RTK antenna, so I make sure that that is good and tight. We don't want to over tighten that though to not break or have it snap off there, so just be a little careful there. On the elevator, I also just make sure that it's free moving, that I'm not giving a lot of pressure and a lot of fast movement here. We don't want to strip the drivetrain, but that's what you're checking for, is just to make sure the drivetrain is nice and smooth, that the servo itself is good and smooth. As I move back to the front of the aircraft, I'm going to remove my lock here. Just want to check and make sure that the props are not loose and on the main props, and also just that they are ready to go, no chips, and feel nice and smooth without any issues with that. As we take a look at the wings, I've already inserted the wings, but we also just want to make sure that the clips are clipped. We've got those solid connections, and as well on this other side. Last is that RTK antenna. Since I'm right here, I'm going to just double check, make sure that's good and snug. As I come to the props over here and the wing tip, so same thing, these do move. I just want to slowly move, make sure that there's no chatter within the drivetrain here. If there's any gear catching or anything like that, we want to stop there on the inspection. It's not going to be safe to fly. Lastly would be your props. Making sure that the props, when you install them, we put them in and they are fully engaged. Once we push them in and make the turn, that there's a little gap there. Double check your tangs, make sure the holding tangs are good to go. We'll move to the front of the aircraft here. Remove this second prop lock. Also double check this prop, make sure that there's no issues with it. Double check our payload. So we're gonna make sure our payload is good and locked on. We've removed our cover and I have an SD card inserted. Finally, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove my pitot tube. So this, we just no debris, no dirt, anything like that that might be an issue for the pitot tube to not operate properly. And then I'll do my final check on this right side wing, make sure that the motion moves nice and smooth, and as well that I have my prop installed correctly. Once we're done with that, batteries are installed and pushed down all the way. Make sure your batteries are also ready and charged, and we should be good to go for our first flight. All right, once assembly is already put together, we've done our inspection. Sometimes people just kind of have a different way to pick up the aircraft. I'm going to show you the best way to pick up the aircraft. Staying on the main fuselage here, not grabbing from the tail and not grabbing from beyond where the wing attaches. So we're grabbing right underneath the armpit of the aircraft and then on this back section here to lift it off the ground. Once we kind of get to that, we'll just walk it out here to the runway. And set our aircraft down. Okay, once we're good to go, batteries are inserted. We're going to go ahead and power on the aircraft. Here you'll see that after power up, if we have a good start, we'll see the aircraft actually move the wingtips around into its flying position.